Let's bite into the neck of tabletop gaming and painting with the Halloween Tippy cast. Bleh! From rolling bones to mastering bloodstrokes, we're here to cool your passion. Join us for frights, bites, and endless torment. I'm Dazula.
And I am Chris Forato. So Daz, what is on the coroner's table?
I have finally finished the dragon I have been painting for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's about as long as we're going to be doing that. No, so I backed a Kickstarter long time ago. God, what was it for?
Siege of the Small
Siege of the
Folk?
Small Folk, I want to say. So I backed that, and with that, I bought a dragon, a mountain dragon to be specific. Lovely model. Set me back about £20 at the time, and it got assembled, it got primed, and then just sat on my desk for the best part of a year and a half. And I finally got round to finishing it the other day. I even bought some sort of like a flamethrower bits from Anvil Games to put in its mouth to make it look a bit more dragony. Done the base nice. Put some. I used the rest of my Armageddon dust, and then made it look all rocky. Painted it grey. Put some rocks on there, and then did a bit of battlefield snow because I think mountain dragon, mountain top, all goes
Makes
together.
sense.
And then just a nice bit of static grass as well, just to sort of bring some colour back into the base. So yeah, finally got that done. And I'm also very quickly ploughing through my Legrazia Industrial Works. I only have one more character of that to paint. And then on to my super secret project. Chris knows what the super secret project is.
I do.
I know what the super secret project is. But you don't. What about you, Chris? What have you got on the table for us?
Well, I finally got round to painting the last two members of the Eternal Legion. The two vampire
Nice.
guys that I hadn't painted. I painted the Lord, but I hadn't painted the other two. So finally got them done. They just need varnishing, and then I can get them onto their bases.
Very nice.
The skeleton rider guys on the ghost horses, they just need their bases completed, and then they can go onto them. And then I'll have everything done for the Eternal Legion, which will be very good.
Just in time for Halloween.
Yes. Vampires. Okay, yeah, that is enough. I did the...
It's dead now.
Steak and a half. I did one of the crowd banner holders from the Half Tilt Kickstarter as well. Some of that was to kind of try some paint idea for my super secret project, and I think it came up quite well. I liked how that worked. And did a bit of freehanding on that as well with a pig head, because the concept art for that model had the pig head on the banner. So at least one of mine has to have that.
It looks great, by the way.
Thank you. That's an example of, like, do your outlining, like your initial outlining in grey, because it's a lot easier to cover up than black. Because the first attempt at the pig head just wasn't very good. Like, the kind of scaling was all wrong, and it wasn't very central. So I ended up having to go back and just fix it, and then basically ink it in with black paint, color it, and then just kind of any bits of the outline that needed tidying up, could do that at the end, but like not having to be too neat on the first outline, because when I'd be adding the colour, it would, like, I would kind of tidy up the inside of the outline by using the colour, and it's just, I think it's a much easier way of doing that. And it's nicer on like a bit of freehand where it's a bigger piece like that, because it allows you to make more mistakes. Whereas,
I just think it's mistakes, Chris, just happy little accidents.
No, sometimes they're all mistakes. I don't care what Bob says, but whereas like when I was doing some of the freehand on the vampires' shields, because on them there's like hidden vampire skulls where I kind of try to keep the tone in with in with the rest of the shield. So you've got to kind of be looking for the hidden bit to kind of see it. But I think it turned out quite good, if I do say so myself.
Those shields are really nice.
Thank you.
No, they're really nice shields.
So at the minute, I've got a few more halflings to paint for the crowd. Super secret project, which I need to get started on, really. I've done one part of it, but I need to do the rest. And I recently got Liberty Prime for the Fallout Wasteland Warfare game. Troll Trader had that up for grabs. So as soon as I saw them advertising that, I was like, "Yep, that's coming with me." So I've stripped the paint. It was fully painted already. It's just it wouldn't match how I'd be painting stuff in the Brotherhood of Steel. It wasn't quite my style, so I was like, "Nah, it's getting redone." Using Green Stuff World Paint Stripper, and that stuff is incredible. Stinks, but it's very strong and very easy to remove it, and safe for resin as well. I did a little test resin model just to make sure that it wouldn't be too harsh for it, because I've had stuff with green stuff on and it just completely melts the green stuff. But resin was fine. Stuff that had been left in for about an hour, paint was just flaking off. It's nice. A really good paint remover. What else is on the table? Yeah, just like the stuff that I can't really say. We can reveal some things, because TT Combat,
just not specifics.
Yeah, can't go into specifics of it. But TT Combat are bringing back they have brought back the community blog, and they've said on it that they are getting members of the community to do some posts on there, and I got approached by Owen to do some paint guides, and they have sent me some of the paints that I requested, and a set of models which I'm not sure when they're getting released, but they are currently unreleased, and that is very exciting for me. So I've done a build guide. There's like a resin cleaning and how to build these specific models, and I've sent that off for them, sent the photos along, and just have to do the painting guides now.
I mean, again, that's also my super secret project is also related to that, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Can't wait to get my hands on it.
I can't wait to be able to show people what I've been working on.
No.
It's like, the NDA is absolutely killing us.
Hopefully, nearer the time, basically, as soon as it gets released, our super secret projects get released on the community, then yes, we can then start talking about it. That's kind of been the agreement. So yeah, looking forward to that. But on to our main topic of the evening. as you say, by the time this comes out, this will be the last episode that will come out before Halloween.
Mm.
Myself and Chris are quite the fan of Halloween. Hashtag spooky vibes. Me and Chris both enjoy Blacksite Studios, which is very much a horror genre game. We both generally just really enjoy the horror genre, so we're going to very heavily lean into that today, as it's the Halloween special. So obviously, I think it's best, Chris, that we start off with Blacksite Studios. To be fair, most Blacksite Studio games have an element of horror in them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But the obvious one is Don't Look Back.
Yeah.
Now, we've spoken about this before, so we're not going to go into like how the game plays or anything like that. We're just sort of going to have a nice little chat about some of our favourite spooky things in tabletop gaming. And, yeah, just going to get into that. Now, for those of you who've been living under a rock and who've not listened to any episodes of the Tippy cast, firstly, shame on you. Secondly...
Yeah. What are you doing that's more important?
Yeah. Probably listening to other podcasts, to be fair, Chris. But Blacksite Studios, all of their sort of like expansion pack, like killer expansion packs, hero expansion packs, are all sort of based on real horror films, but obviously due to licensing, they can't use the exact name. And my favourite thing about the way Blacksite deliver it is they all come in like the VHS boxes and they look like proper movies.
Yeah,
some of
the
my
box
favourites.
art's really nice on them.
A couple of my favourites is I really like the sideshow slaughter, because of the Pennywise parody, and I really like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre parody, Death on the Line and Death on the Tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Of the two models that they have, I prefer the second one, the resculpt they brought out. A lot more dynamic, a lot more terror-inducing.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just got a lot. Blacksite Studios, all credit to them. I think me and Chris are hoping that if we mention them often enough, they might just start sending us free stuff.
Yeah. Do it.
But
do it. I mentioned it in your in the new edition rulebook. I'm in the thanks.
Yeah, at least because
I backed it. Although Matt Burns, he does see things from the Tippy Club. There's been stuff that I've posted on the Tippy Club Instagram, and which goes onto the Facebook, and he's left comments on the Facebook, which is really awesome. And it's like when the guy who wrote the game that you're playing like sees it, it's like, that is insane.
It's only a matter of time.
We Don't Look Back, a lot of the time I see it as like it's your slashers and stuff like that. But with the different, even in the starter set alone, you're getting different types of killers. It's not just your slashers. There's like your ethereals and things like that. So it adds like some ghostly elements. But you start getting aliens, creatures, so you can do a creature featuring the creature, and there's a whole load of different things you can get in there. There's like demonic possessions and stuff, which I really need to get a hold of that one, because it's very like Evil Dead sort of inspired, and it's like, yes. So like the plot around that one is there's like a possessed, like a demonic possessed girl. It's like a ballerina, And the player character you get added to that one is a priest. So you're there trying to do an exorcism, and the possession can start really messing with people, and it's that looks like such a good expansion. But one of my favorite ones is the Attack of the Greys. It's the alien one. So that has your grey aliens, which have their own killer profile, and they've also got these other type of interest markers that will move around and can start abducting the heroes. They get removed, they come back, and it starts adding more terror to them and stuff like that. And the models themselves are just nice grey aliens.
Your classic grey aliens.
Yeah. So your big eyes, your big head, little kind of skinny bodies and stuff. But the 3 aliens you get in that pack are 3 different sculpts, and there's one that's got the hand out, outstretched. And when it came to me painting them, the 2 of them are just grey, black eyes, just standard. But that one I have with yellow eyes and kind of like a subdermal glow to it, because I was thinking, well, they can kind of do a hypnosis sort of thing, so a psionic ability. And I was thinking in XCOM, the sectoid commanders, they can take control, mind control you guys, and they've got a bit of a glowy eye thing, and you can kind of see psionic stuff going on inside the head. So I was I'm going to recreate that. And that's what I did on the one with the outstretched arm.
Because Attack of the Greys, that's a part of the triple feature pack, isn't it?
I think it is.
The triple feature pack, I think, is Attack on the Line. Or no, is it? No. Attack on the Line, The Final Girls, and Attack of the Greys. And Final Girls is a great addition to the game.
Yeah, it adds a bunch of new player characters and a new type of a new ability for the players, but that can only be active if the character is female.
Yeah, and that's when you can start taking the fight to the killer, and it changes the whole game on its head, and it looks so much fun. And I've found somewhere, and I'm going to ask Father Christmas really nicely if he can get me the triple feature pack, or at least give me the appropriate funds to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's fun when people come round and they see the VHS boxes on my shelf.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, you got a VHS player?" And I was like, "No." And then I'll open up the box and I'll just show them its models and stuff, and they're like, "That's quite cool." But yeah, definitely a game. Because I think if you're clever enough, you could easily, if you're playing Blackside Studios, if you play it on a spooky Halloween night, you could probably get some ambient music, maybe have some jump effect sounds, some sound effects every so often that are just going to go off, add actual terror into the game. Maybe hire a friend to just come in every so often and just flicker the lights. I don't know. But yeah, so we're not going to go on too much about Blackside Studios, but we do both really love that. And I think as Halloween games or Halloween or spooky themed games go, it's up there. It's, if not probably one of the best from a tabletop miniatures perspective.
Yeah, and like I say, there's a whole load of different different genres of horror film you can do with it. It isn't just slasher killers. There's a whole heap of different ones you can do to kind of match your preferred horror.
But it's just, as a caveat to what we're saying, it is extraordinarily hard at the minute to get Blackside Studios stuff over here.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the near future.
Spectre Miniatures has a little range of Blackside stuff. So, but hopefully they can extend out the offerings they've got. Just needs to have the as long as there's a demand for it, really, I suppose. It'll like incentivize them
Definitely.
to get more on hand. But,
Or if you've got a 3D printer.
yeah, you can get the STLs. But three of my favorite games is the Resident Evil series that Steamforged did. There's Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 3. The Resident Evil 4 in the works at the moment. But each one of them plays, like, it introduces a new kind of element to it. So it started with Resident Evil 2. I mean, it's everyone's favourite, so why wouldn't you? Which it kind of is a nice entry into the Resident Evil games. It's a more like stripped back version of what the later games would be. So it's like you play that, you get the hang of what's going to be like the main thread all the way through the board games. Resident Evil 3, it starts adding more of an evolving route that you would play through. So just like in the computer game, you would go to different areas and different events would happen. So like based on items that you find, because some of the key items are randomly placed into different events. And then like the Resident Evil 1 board game, which is the most recent one, that has a pretty cool one for each time you play the game. It's going to be like a different layout essentially. So there's like a set structure that will always be there, but then offshot rooms are going to be like played on the fly. So like each time you play that mission, you'll end up with a different room that gets placed there, which kind of adds a nice little bit of random element. So it's as the Stars team are exploring the mansion, you know, it isn't like they don't have a floor plan set the memory. It's not the city that they know. It's a completely random generated mansion essentially, which I think is pretty cool. And then there's like the puzzle aspect of that, which is just done through cards. It's got a whole set of rules for kind of how you figure out the puzzles, and it's essentially a color combination that you're working on, which I think is quite cool. And it's all like basic time limit by the event cards. So as your event card pile runs out, that's your time limit. You've got your ink ribbons you use at your typewriters to be able to like reshuffle the deck back in to extend it, because as the games go on, the maps are a bit bigger. There's a bit more back and forth that you've got to do. You're not going to have enough of the event cards to kind of do it in one run. I think it's a really nice mechanic in it.
Yeah, it does sound that way. I mean, I've always loved the Resident Evil games, and the fact that you can get that on the tabletop, it sounds like a good old hash. Mm-hmm. And I imagine as well, it does still have that element of fear in those sort of games where it's just sort of like I genuinely don't know what's going on. Because obviously it's all well and good, like if you play a game where
it brings in the survival horror aspect of like you need to pick your battles really carefully because you're not going to have enough ammo to kill everything.
Exactly, and I think games that require you to do that, especially on the tabletop, it kind of takes you out of that, oh, I've got unlimited ammo, I can take as many shots as I want mindset that you get with something like Kill Team or like any other sort of skirmish game or like game like that. Yeah, it does make you think like, oh, and again, that plays very, very like Resident Evil does. Like, you can't just go around killing everything because you only have so much ammo, and ammo's so hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always been difficult getting games from, interactive media like video games or TV into a board game or onto a tabletop miniatures game. That's always been tricky,
Yeah.
especially if people who are like massive fans of that franchise. But from the sounds of it, and I have seen some like play videos of the Resident Evil game, and it does look like it plays very, very similarly to the video game, which I think they've got that really nice balance of mechanics to make it work like the game, but also not to get overwhelmed by the mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of simplifying things, but still being able to generate that fear that the game also puts into you.
Yeah. And with zombie stuff as well, it's how do you make the horde a threat? So with this one, it's as the zombies move onto the same space as you, their attacks will be easier to hit you, and you're only going to be able to deal with so many at a time, and then you've got your health concern to worry about as well. So as you're taking hits, you're just going to be dropping health constantly. They get their turn to attack. They also get reactions. So if you do a loud action like fire your gun, if you don't kill it, it's going to stop moving towards you. And in the Resident Evil 1 board game, you start getting the Crimson Heads coming in, and they're a lot harder, they move a lot quicker, and it rapidly becomes quite a difficult situation to be in, especially, like I say, where you've got ammo to be concerned about using.
Now, moving on from the more zombified horrors and the more infected horrors, let's have some quick chats about some Eldritch horror, which I know you're quite a fan of, Chris, with your Old Gods of Appalachia. Now, we talk about this one a lot. It's a TT combat game. Carnival does, like a lot of the factions, do have a whiff of the Eldritch, very weird horror game. Like, obviously, the Richard, straight off the bat, they are very much the epicenter of Eldritch horror in this in Carnival, with their mini Cthulhu monster, all the other fish monsters that they have, the sirens. They have basically all these weird creatures.
The best
They've got at their
creatures,
disposal
because they're the best faction.
Because, what's more terrifying than a shark in a canal? Oh, it's a shark that can walk on land. Like, that's the only thing. And when sharks grow legs, Chris, that's when we're in trouble. Other horrors in the game, I mean, as Halloween things go, you can't beat the daddy of Halloween, Vlad Dracula. He is the horror daddy. The spooky daddy. The only thing I don't like, I like it and I don't like it for two reasons, and I'll explain them both. I don't like the fact that they've given Dracula a 70s porn star mustache, but at the same time, I really like the fact that they've given him a 70s porn star mustache.
I mean, when in Italy,
Well, when in Venice, and it's just like, it's funny because it's like, I mean, Dracula. Firstly, how does a vampire trim their mustache if they can't see their reflection? Second of all, it's like, what would happen? Would he just put like the shaving cream on and just? I reckon someone else shaves him. Now I've thought about it.
He's got all of
Probably the only way he's got to do it.
his thralls. They're gonna do it.
And his wives. But yeah, so with that, there's some cool, like, Bram Stoker, very Romani folklore monsters. More your old, I'd say, not so much Eldritch Horrors, but you're more like your old school monsters, your vampires, your giant bat monsters, werewolves, old crones who can, like, manipulate your blood and stuff.
Yeah, it's
like
your
old school horror.
Transylvanian, Van Helsing,
Transylvanian horrors.
vampire lore.
And some of the fluff that they do in Blood on the Water about Dracula, it's you kind of see him in a new light. You're thinking, oh, he's not all bad. Like he kills like a good 100 doctors to save his wife. So I mean, he's clearly a very dedicated husband. So let's give him that.
And who doesn't want that?
You know. But yeah, but then obviously then you got the more macabre, plague doctors, you know, who've got their own sense of horror, twisted, messed up horror. You know, you're more trying to think really what it would be. Very much.
Well, they're a body horror.
Body horror stuff, yeah, and you know, the plague masks, the driving people insane, like creating essentially they create zombies. You know, they start to have power over death. They have a thing called the Thing, which essentially is Frankenstein, or sorry, Frankenstein's monster to be more specific, and it's a creature that they've just.
Hold
sorry,
on,
it's the being,
hold on. He says in the book that he is a Frankenstein because Dr. Frankenstein is his father because he gave him life. So it is correct to call the monster Frankenstein because he is a Frankenstein.
Hey, don't call me Mr. Frankenstein. Mr. Frankenstein was my father.
Dr. Frankenstein was his father, actually. I think you'll find. But yeah, it is
Sorry,
technically correct to call the monster Frankenstein, and technically correct is the best kind of correct. Just wanted to put that one to bed.
Hey, that's fine. No, I even said it wrong. It wasn't called the Thing. It's called the Being.
The Being, yeah.
But yeah, and yet the Morgue Doctor as well, who again has a skill called Power Over Death. Plus, let's not forget the big daddy of the Doctor's force of the Unholy Union,
the Human Centipede.
Poor. I mean, yeah, think Human Centipede, less legs, more arms. You know.
Think Human Centipede 3.
You know, and it's and they've also got vampires now in their forces. You know, they've got all this other crazy stuff going on. Very body horror stuff. You know, they create like husks, zombies. It's all getting it's all now started very much dipping into like the Eldritch horror. Well, not dipping in. It's having a good cannonball into the waters of Eldritch horror, old Bram Stokery Transylvanian horror, if you want to call it that. Very old school horror, taking a lot of hints from that. The nearest sort of thing the guild get to any sort of horror like that is like Baba Yaga, which is more like folklore. And it's not even a really horror, but yeah, I mean the real story of Baba Yaga is like when she has the house that's on chicken legs in the middle of the woods. So, but yeah, but there's if you look through all of it, there is a real sense of they're taking lots of different aspects of like different horror genres and putting it into a tabletop game, and it is and I will sing this praises to this. It's a fantastic game, and the models are only getting better and better and better. And it's but say horror game as it's not really a horror game, but it does heavily lean on a lot of some horror tropes. And in context, if you think about it in a level of immersion, if you were faced with a plague doctor who could just quite easily like snap your mind, you'd be terrified. So yeah, definite big thumbs up there for like horror minis.
And our other
on a more light,
like contractually obligated game to talk about, horror also blends in very well with wrestling.
Oh yes, yes, we have TT Combat, not an official sponsor yet.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Come on.
Yeah, there's like a whole heap of horror things that you find in Rumble Slam as well. So you've got essentially probably about 90% of Rolling Bones is horror. The odd bit of the feral den as well. You get some pretty gross things in there. So
keep it going that way with the vampires.
Feral Den has a few horror elements to it. You've got things like Mythos, which is just a big devil. Rotagut, which is your chaos Nurgle sort of
thing,
decaying mess of zombie. Your pestilence kind of stuff. And then like Feral Den, I mean, they've got werewolves.
Oh, that is that your Rolling Bones has got the werewolves and stuff in it, yeah. I mean, granted.
Rolling Bones. Sorry,
some of them are a little bit like one of them's a little bit funnier than the other one. Like you got Michelle J. Wolf. And Michelle, was it Michelle J. Wolf?
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Wolf or something like that.
Michelle J. Wolf.
Yeah. Which is a little bit more say Teen Wolf rather than an actual werewolf.
Yeah.
And you've obviously got the werewolf referees, and you've got the Grim Reaper as a referee.
Yeah.
Because why not? And let's not forget the tag team for Rolling Bones, Frank and Stein, who are hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it's horror trope. It's horror trope everywhere in that. And like I say, horror and wrestling goes hand in hand.
I mean, let's be honest, Gravedigger, that's another one.
Yeah.
Who else? Well, you got Blade, which is called Fang. You got a nice little Davy Jones, little bit of Eldritch horror in there.
Captain Keelhole,
who's also very cool. Obviously, you got vampires in the keep. You got the Man Bat. Because the only thing that makes that less terrifying is the fact that he's wearing a leotard. Like, that's the only thing that sort of takes any sort of level of fright out of it. I mean, also as well, who is it? I want to say, is it Ratafinger? The Piper Rat from Feral Den.
Yes, the Pied Piper of Ham.
That's... and let's be honest, so Grimm fairy tales, which a lot of Disney fairy tales are based on, Grimm fairy tales were originally told to scare children into obedience. So the Pied Piper was very much like that sort of situation. It was a scary thing. It's a scary fairy tale. And they've...
A scary tale.
And again, again, they've kind of wrestled it up, I'm going to say it in that, for lack of a better term. With the glitz, the glam, and the humour of wrestling. But you can still very much see where a lot of these things have taken their inspiration. But they're definitely, that you can see where they're getting their ideas from.
I mean, wrestling itself does exactly the same. Your characters are all based on ideas, like established characters, essentially, in some cases. So, like, bringing that in with Rumble Slam, it's just a natural fit.
Yeah, and it is. There's just plenty out there at the minute. I mean, again, dancing skeletons. Like, what's better than that? We completely overlooked, like with the role at the Cryptborn Nightmares as a whole team. You got 2 skeletons, a zombie, a mummy, and a werewolf. Like, as it goes with like old school horror tropes, that's the big 3, the big 4, isn't it? Like undead skeletons, werewolves, mummies, zombies. It's like that's the big 4. Throw a vampire in there, job done. But
and you've got Shamble Fist as well for a soul. I mean, you're pretty much hitting the universal monsters.
Because that's got very much a swamp thing, but he's more a jungle thing. Forest thing? Jungle thing? Forest thing?
No, he's a swamp. He's a big swamp thing.
You can jump off.
It's very swamp adjacent.
Swamp adjacent. A lot of games out there that will lean heavily on these sort of these sort of tropes. A game obviously that I've mentioned time and time again, Still waiting for it to come to Kickstarter. Is that Slapshot Showdown? I keep following their progress on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
The first team that they've created are all like horror tropes. You know, you've got Dracula, a Frankenstein, a werewolf, a mad scientist, all those sort of like old school tropes. And now they've started doing another team which is more like RPG tropes. Like they've done a sketch. I know this is slightly off topic, but a little bit. I'm just sort of following it on, where they're like classic RPG tropes. Like the one they've done is like an elf ranger.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent him a suggestion about saying like a barbarian, like goon, like a defender, like just going around beating the hell out of people, which would be hilarious. But yeah, it's just there's so much out there, and I think, of the games that we play, now that we've kind of laid it out, I do sort of realise it's just sort of like there's a running theme of the sort of things that we like. But I'm sure there's some really good horror RPGs out there as well. Like, yeah, you got the Call of Cthulhu. There's a vampire one, I believe. I can't tell you what the name of it is. And you've got the Alien RPG, which
Vampire the Masquerade.
that's it. And the Alien RPG you were on about, like that's terrifying. That's very much a sci-fi horror, especially if you're trying to escape from an alien, which is near indestructible.
Which you won't.
Which you won't.
There's All Gods of Appalachia, which you mentioned. I'm a fan of. With that, it's a lot more cryptid based, and like I mean, there's even stuff like fairy tales that come into it. It's kind of just an overarching folklore that it uses.
Yeah.
And like that's a really good podcast to listen. It's like a scripted, more like a radio play.
Yeah.
Really, really good. It's like set during like it's very much like just after like the West's pretty much on its way out. And like there's like a bunch of different periods that it looks at. It kind of jumps around depending on the storyline that it's on. But like it's very much like turn of the century. The West has been tamed, and yeah, like the Civil War's ended, and it's like your remnants of the outcome and stuff. But like focusing on obviously in the Appalachian area, there's a whole lot of like industry that's coming about, a lot of like coal mining and stuff, and like the area itself has like this eldritch mysticism about it, and like the coal mining's awoken a lot of different spirits and stuff. It's like there's a whole load of different storylines that are running separate to each other. Some of them like kind of mesh into each other, but it's like very much there's something for everyone in All Gods of Appalachia.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good podcasts out there, and I know this one's going to sound a bit of an offshoot. But I don't know if any of you have heard of Outside Xbox. They have their own sort of side thing that's called Ox Venture, and it's where they play like different tabletop RPGs. And the one they're doing currently at the minute is called Weirdwood, and it's using D&D. It's a completely ground up adventure by their DM. He's called Johnny Chiodini, and they are very good at really building the tension in this. If you haven't given it a listen, it really gives off. One of the episodes, they were essentially being chased by a headless horseman, and even just listening to it, there was a great deal of fear being brought up, and real sense of tension. So they really are very good at that, and obviously give it a listen. And the way that they present it, and all the sound effects and things like that, and their voice, it's just amazing. and it really does bring out a sense of horror as well.
Mm-hmm.
But a subject of D&D, currently, if any of you are on D&D Beyond, there's a sale on at the minute of more like spookier adventures that you can buy on D&D Beyond. Some more horror-based spooky adventures. They've got them on sale in a minute for Halloween. I think it's like 25% off, which is pretty good if you've not used D&D Beyond. I've started using that more now than the paper because I can't be bothered with the maths, which I think's fair.
See, I prefer paper, just the tactile use of it going through a book. I prefer that.
I mean, also I do like rolling my dice. Also, speaking of fun dice, obviously you've seen on the Tippy Club Instagram that Chris bought a set of bullet dice, which I've also bought, and bought the book Shooting Iron. I know it's not horror related, just gonna do a bit of a shameless plug.
Well, I think with that then we should go into new and tasty.
New and tasty. Fresh and tasty.
So yeah, picked up those the sweet revolver 6-shooter dice,
which has got 7.
Pretty cool.
7-shooter.
Yeah, so you 7 dice for your polys. But the one of them, it's the central the central bit of the cylinder, so it's not a bullet, it's still a 6-shooter. Technically correct is the best kind of correct.
That should be on a t-shirt, technically.
Yeah, and it's just a nice fidget sort of toy to go along with it. The cylinder itself does spin, and it is really nice. It's a nice and smooth spin. And then Shooting Iron, which I mentioned, Wild West, the RPG. It's based on the D&D system, and it's a lot more true grit than Blazing Saddles.
I mean, we could make it Blazing Saddles, but it's
pretty cool.
It's because, like, don't get me wrong, because obviously you've got, like, again, it's very often mentioned that I do like a Western. And I always found Deadlands was a bit too Weird West for me to really enjoy. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I like a Weird West, but I wanted something a bit more truer to the Wild West, and it to be a bit more, more Red Dead Redemption, less Malifaux, if that makes sense. And it did look the rules. I mean, you've had a quick flick through them, Chris. I've had a quick flick through, and on a base thing, it plays very much like D&D, but in the West, and we've got guns. It's but what I like about it is when you get to the back, it tells you about like different areas, and like it suggests the kind of encounters that you'd have in that area. So if you want to do it in the desert, here's what you should have. If you're going to do it in the mountains, here's a list of suggestions. And it makes the encounters really easy. But so hopefully, I think me and Chris might try and record an episode or two of this campaign, and then sort of shoehorn those into being Tippycast episodes, because we can. And but yeah. Other than that, obviously, you've got the new Dungeon Master 2024 books out, or it's on its way out, and the new Monster Manual. They're both now coming out because they redid the big 3 books now for 2024. I bought the new player's handbook the other day. I caved and bought it. It's a good read if you're not familiar with it. What else? Anything? Oh. Carnival. There's new Carnival stuff been announced.
Yes, Carnival's got the new Ottomans. You can finally field a team of just Ottomans, because the Corsairs didn't have a leader option in there. They were just more like hired guns that your patricians would bring in. Whereas now the Ottoman discipline brings in
the Janissary, I think, isn't it?
Yes, the Janissary Sapper and battle axe wielder, your gang heroes.
Yeah, because it finally gives you the option of fielding an entire Ottoman gang, as opposed to, because when I generally run a patrician's gang, I really heavily go on the city guard. You know, I like the guard commander or commander of the guard.
Yeah, the city guard look cool.
And the commander of the guard, as heroes go, he's up there, and it's just sort of like he will mess people up with that gilded saber that he has. He will just mess people up. So it is nice to see them being able to now field an entire Ottoman force instead of like having to go, oh, I've got to take everyone else an Ottoman, but I've still got to take a leader who, quite frankly, they might just not follow. Thematically wouldn't follow, other than the fact that they're being paid to. So yes, those are looking very nice. And yeah, I mean, I'm quite excited for them. I've played around with some of the other Ottomans, like the Cannoneer's quite fun, because nothing's more terrifying to someone than a man carrying a cannon.
A full broadsider. With these new guys, there's another bit of range option you get there. There's black powder grenades and an archer, but the archer can benefit from the black powder grenades by making black powder black powder arrows,
exploding arrows.
Oh yes,
because grenades aren't dangerous.
The ability means any. The ability means any friendly Ottoman archer within 3 inches may use its black powder grenade as if it were their own when making a combat action. So yeah, firing exploding arrows, which is always very good. And it's just another ranged option for your patrician gang and for your Ottomans.
And that battle axe guy, that's a big axe.
Yeah,
it's a heft.
For a guy who isn't a massive bloke either, he's
hefty.
He's carrying that well.
It's a hefty axe. Oh, I mean, what else we got coming out?
Drop Zone Commander 2 has been dropping. People have been receiving that
very well. It's been very well received.
Our boy Dario's been enjoying.
He has very much so. And well, I spoke to Dario. Well, I didn't speak to him. I messaged him. And watch this space because there might be a Cats Behind the Mask in the near future. So prepare your ear holes for that.
For his sultry tones, that
Dario and
that Italian accent.
Dario and Renz.
Yeah, the boys. We also have the Chroma Terrain from Tippy Combat,
which looks amazing.
That goes to Kickstarter next week.
Yeah.
At some point, week commencing the 28th, just depending on when you're listening, what next week means. So 28th of October. At some point during that week, the Kickstarter should be going live. And that is the MDF terrain with the colour printed detailing.
And I'd say some of the stuff that they've already released looks amazing. And for people like me who can't be asked to paint scenery, it's a godsend. And I just hope they do some Wild West stuff that's already painted.
Yeah, it's like very little prep that you'd need for it. It's just kind of popping them out of the sprue, giving the little nubs a clean up, and put it together. It's ready to go. Some nice gothic terrain they've been sharing.
It looks really nice. Have you seen that Games Workshop?
And it looks like
also.
I was just about to say it looks like Games Workshop and Tippy Combat have bought the same toy, because the new Kill Team, or an upcoming Kill Team box, is coming with a pre-printed detailed MDF scenery as well.
I reckon we'll be getting some stuff lot of stuff before the next episode because obviously we'll be having Black Friday. Christmas will just be around the corner. So yeah, it's just one of those things, really. Like, oh, that's the thing. I backed a Kickstarter for the Discworld TTRPG Adventures in Ankh Morpath.
Mm-hmm.
So quite looking forward to that because the way the Discworld TTRPG works is what they call the narrativium. And what that is you when you create a character, you have like traits that you have, and you have to justify actions by using those traits, and you just roll off against the DM. So he says like, oh right, okay, so you've justified an X trait, like a trait, something like, as an example, like winning smile. Like if you're making certain checks, you can try and justify it, and then the DM will be like, yeah, okay, you roll a d10, and then he'll roll a d10, and then if you beat his roll, it happens, and it's very narrative driven, and it is good fun, especially if you're a fan of the Discworld books of Sir Terry Pratchett, which I am.
Did you say that was from Modiphius?
Yes, Modiphius are the ones who do that.
Yeah.
Again, so when I was at the expo, I had a quick glance because obviously I got that. Was it 5 parsecs from home? That was at the Modiphius stand, and as I was sort of looking for it, I did come across Discworld RPG, so I had a quick look through that book, and it did look quite interesting. And then I saw Oxventure did a one shot of the Adventures of Ankh Morpath, and I thought it was really good, and I just backed it because I spent £50, so that gets me the core book and some dice. I think it also gets me a PDF of it as well, so that's going to be quite fun because my mum's quite into Discworld books as well, so I think she'd probably quite enjoy playing that. Mum doesn't like to admit that she's got some nerd in her, but she does. She's got a little bit of nerd in her, but yeah, she's a big Discworld fan, so I'm hoping that might be just enough that I can get her throwing some dice. I've nearly had her a couple of times with other games, like the Hellboy game. I nearly had her with that. Nearly had her. Just get my mum throwing, get mum, because dad already throws dice. I've spoken about my dad before. Like dad throws dice. He throws dice like a demon. Personally, I think he's cheating, but I reckon he's using loaded dice. He never does let me use certain dice, so that might be why. But yeah, if I can get mum rolling some dice as well, then I reckon I've helped dad out by getting him to justify more terrain. So I'll work on it.
Get some chroma terrain.
What, getting some chroma terrain? Nah, you've seen some of my dad's work with terrain. He loves painting it.
Yeah. He does very good jobs on it.
Have you seen his ships as well when he does all the rigging as well? Like he loves it. You see, he's happy as a pig in shit when you're seeing him doing it. Like you see when I'm sat across the other end of the table, and he's there just putting the rigging on the ship. You just see a little smile on his face. He's listening to some AC/DC, just rigging a ship, and he's in his element. It's genuinely a pleasure to watch him work on it because you just watch him and it's just like, and he used to do it on like really small ships, but sort of like Napoleonic ships.
Using thread.
No, not even joking. Yeah, he was using like thread to do it and tweezers. So him doing it on a ship that's like, I don't know, 20 times the size, he was just big arm movements. Just like, yeah, it's all good. Did I tell you, like, on the subject of the ships, we reused a Madame figure from the House of Virtue.
Yes,
and we made it the figurehead,
for the figurehead, yeah.
Yeah, because it's already got that sort of shape, and all he had to do was sort of like heat it up at the back, and then sort of molded it to the shape of the ship, and it looks so good. And it's because
that's a good idea.
I mentioned it in the Good Scenery but Better episode. Shameless plug.
Yes, go back and listen to it.
Listen to it.
That's probably one of our most popular episodes. But I don't think there's a probably about it. That is our most popular
I
episode.
don't know. The Let's Play Half Tilt was pretty impressive. It doesn't count.
I don't really count that as an episode. It's an episode, but it's a special episode. That one.
Well, I think, Chris, we've kind of covered all we need to cover. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So, with that, I wish you a very spooky Halloween.
And a haunted something. And
scene. Thanks for joining us on the Tippy Cast, and if you're listening on Spotify, be sure to follow us.
And if you listen to us on YouTube, why not drop us a like and subscribe? And weigh in with your thoughts on what we've mentioned, missed, or something for us to look at for the next episode in the comments below.
And it's a goodbye from him.
And it's a goodbye from me.